How's it going, folks? Taylor Wachowski here. Today's tip, day number 2, is going to be about spaying and neutering. When is it a good time to spay or neuter your pet? This question floats around a lot, and a lot of people get a lot of different types of answers. Most of the time in America, a lot of people will spay and neuter just before a year, or anytime up to a year. That's usually the golden spot that people like to do when they're spaying and neutering their pets. Well, some breeders and some other people like to wait for at least 2 years before you spay or neuter your animal. If you buy a dog from a breeder and you don't have breeding rights or any of that nonsense, they may request in their contract that you wait for 2 full years for the growth plates to fully close and for the dog to completely mature in their body before you're able to neuter them or spay them. The reason for that is that when you're spaying and neutering an animal, you're not just taking away their ability to reproduce, but you're actually desexing them. What is spaying and neutering? Spaying and neutering is when you remove the reproductive organs from a cat or a dog, whether it be male or female. And this reason is to prevent them from being able to reproduce. So the males, they will remove the testes, and for the females, they remove the ovaries and uterus. In some cases, more recently, veterinarians will actually give the animal a hysterectomy or a vasectomy versus completely desexing this animal. The reason being, when we take these organs away, we completely remove those hormones that this animal needs to mature and grow up and even survive with. Imagine if you were a 12 or 13-year-old boy or girl and someone were to remove those organs from you and you have no more hormones. You may have very minimal that are released throughout different parts of the body, but not nearly as much as when you have your reproductive organs intact. So this is very important when growing older, as if you spay an animal too early in life, they can possibly develop certain types of cancers, weaker bones, osteoporosis, cancer, tumors, things like that for the male and the female. There's no scientific reasoning saying that it's particularly more beneficial for the animal to be spayed or neutered, whether it be early in life or later in life, than being intact their entire life. Another reason why people might like to choose the option of having a vasectomy or a hysterectomy over completely desexing the animal is that they take away the animal's ability to reproduce, but they still keep those organs intact, meaning the animal continues to grow up with those hormones, keeps the good flow of those hormones going, keeps the growth plates growing and closing, keeps the bone strong, a lot of other healthy benefits to keeping those organs intact instead of just completely removing them. A lot of us here in North America like to choose the complete spay and neuter option because it's very popular. It's just, that's the way it's been done for pretty much forever. And because we don't have a lot of control over those animals that are still intact. We have a very large stray population that we can't control, so whenever anybody gets an animal, a puppy, a kitten, maybe even a ferret, to prevent these animals from somehow, someday getting out and mating with another and reproducing more animals we don't have room for, we spay and neuter them very early in life. I'm totally for spaying and neutering, as well as keeping your animals intact if you're responsible. If you're not responsible, then maybe wait at least a year before you get your animal spayed or neutered so they have a little bit more of a chance to get those hormones helping the body as it grows and matures. Personally, I like to follow the 2-rule minimum. You wait 2 years before your animal is spayed or neutered unless otherwise giving you other issues. Maybe their behavioral issues are just really out of control. Maybe they're spraying everywhere, or they are scenting everywhere, urinating, scent marking, just really going crazy after the neighbor's dog. Then I totally understand. But also understand that there are ways to train that out of your dog. It may happen, it may not. If your dog or cat is reacting in such a way, then there are ways to train it out. If you do your research and consult either a trainer or a behaviorist, just know that you don't have to use pain to train this out of the animal. Maybe just understand dogs and cats a little bit more during this time when they're either highly stressed and they start to mark, or when they're just highly aroused because there's lots of pheromones floating around in the air. So keep their mind busy with other things, maybe toys, lots more exercise. Take them out to the pool so they can swim and get really tired and have a much better life rather than just being cooped up in a cage all day because you don't want them out and trying to mate with your neighbor's dog. When a male dog gets a vasectomy, then he will have the testes intact. They will just remove the vas deferens. That's what it's called for humans. I'm not sure if it's the same for dogs, so please forgive me. I'm not a vet. But they will remove that and do what they need to basically just take away that bridge. So that way the male dog is still intact, but he cannot actually impregnate a female. For a dog hysterectomy, I assume it would be the same as it would for a female, where they cut the fallopian tube, tie a little tie right there, so that way again the eggs cannot get through and she cannot become pregnant. Now, while still having lots of estrogen and testosterone in the body, you may still have behavioral issues. issues. Although your animal cannot become pregnant or impregnate another, just understand that you will still have some behavioral issues there. Maybe you won't, maybe you will. Either way, it can and should be dealt with proper training that doesn't involve pain or pain compliance. So when is too early? Honestly, I feel like anytime before a year is a bit early for me. That would be my limit, would be waiting 1 year minimum for an animal if you absolutely had to. I prefer, if I can, to wait longer if I ever do get the animal spayed or neutered, or I'm going to do major research to find one who can give them a tube tying or a vasectomy, something that will keep those hormones intact and keep the dog a little bit healthier and maybe happier throughout their life. Now, for those people who already have spayed or neutered their animals, they may notice that there are more health risks down the line. Then just do your best to make sure your dog stays nice and healthy now. Keep their bones strong, have them on a good diet, give them daily exercise, mental stimulation, very important. And as you see these problems arising, if they do arise later in life, then try your best to deal with it then in an appropriate manner. Talk to your veterinarian, talk to several veterinarians, get lots of good input about what the best proper care is for your animal if they start to develop anything. Spaying or neutering early on or at all does not necessarily mean a death sentence for your dog. They're not doomed to contract certain types of cancers or anything like that. Although studies do show that animals who have been spayed and neutered do have a higher risk of developing certain types of cancers. And if you are a responsible pet parent and you want to keep your animal intact, you don't plan to breed them, you don't plan on letting them get out and jump over the fence because there's a female dog in heat down the road, then by all means, more power to you. Just make sure that you do keep a close eye on your dog. You know what dogs around you are intact and which aren't, to prevent any of their fights, any breeding, unplanned babies, and if it should happen, then please take care of it responsibly. Please don't just drop them off at a high-kill shelter, drop them off at any vet's office. Take them to a no-kill shelter or the Humane Society, or even take the responsibility for yourself. Raise those puppies to a reasonable age and get them adopted yourself. Or find people to foster these animals. So that's just a quick tip on neutering and spaying your animal. When should you do it? When is too early? When is too late? I personally would say anytime before a year is a little bit too early. And keep in mind that the older they get, the harder it is for them to recover. Maybe the thinner their blood might get. They may not be able to handle a spay or neuter at 9 or 10 years down the line. Some people wait until even after 7 years to get their animal spayed or neutered. It just depends. So to each their own. Do your own research. Do what you feel is best for your animal. And whether you decide to fully spay and neuter your animal or get a vasectomy or tubes tied, that's totally your choice. Do your research. Find a good proper vet to do it. And spend some time with your dog and help them recover properly. So that was just today's tip of the day. This is all just from my opinion and just basic research that I've done on this. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it, and stay positive.